Welcome to the Celebrate Arkansas podcast. I'm Jocelyn Murphy, the managing editor, and we're talking Broadway today. I'm so thrilled to have Walton Arts Center staff joining us. Jennifer Ross, VP of Programming, and Curt Owens, Director of Programming. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Jocelyn. Happy to be here.
Yes, I have worked with Walton Arts Center for a really long time in my previous role before joining Celebrate, and then at Celebrate, we do a lot of work with you guys, and so I'm very familiar with not only the Broadway series, but all of the programming, all of the arts education programming. And so I love sharing that mission with our community and just touting what a gem and like awesome resource that we have here. So excited that you guys are here to further that.
Happy to talk about Broadway and other things all the time.
All the time. So we're talking today, we could talk at length about any of the series that Walton Arts Center has, any of the programs that you guys have. So we're going to focus today on Broadway, but if there's other things that pop into the conversation, that's also okay. But we're mostly focusing on the 2024-25 Procter & Gamble Broadway series, which has already started, correct? With the add-on show.
Right, with the bonus shows.
With the bonus show.
Broadway bonus shows. We just closed Hamilton on Sunday. It was a 12-show run. We launched the tour from Fayetteville. We were so happy that they wanted to come back to Fayetteville, number one, and also they wanted to launch this tour from here. So the show has always been on tour. I mean, since it started in 2019, I think. Yeah. No, that's not right. Now I can't remember the year. 2014. I mean, it's been continuously on tour. They add tours, they take away tours. At one time, there were 4 different tours in North America of Hamilton. And so this was just a sort of a bit of a relaunch of one of the tours because the demand is there for this fantastic show. We had a great run. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
And for the tech of the show, over 7,500 work hours, which is more than like 3 people a full-time job for a year. So that's how much work goes into launching this. It was something like 1,200 shifts of work over the 3-week period that they were here. So it was a huge boon for us, for our team, and also the Northwest Arkansas community because they were here for so long. But we were super happy to have them.
Tech. Sorry to cut you off. I want to be sure that that's clear. So you launched the tour from here, but the whole company was here for, you said something like 3 weeks, doing the teching process. Correct. And that's what you said, the tech with the 1,200 shifts. What does that mean, the teching process for a company?
Sure, that means that everybody comes together for the first time. So the actors may have been rehearsing somewhere else separate from the sets, the props, the costumes. But this is the first place where everything came off the trucks and they put it all together for the first time. So the actors walked on stage for the first time here at Walton Arts Center to begin the rehearsal process.
Yeah. And it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't just the actors. It was the full behind the scenes, all of the people bringing the show together.
Right.
We're all in Northwest Arkansas for weeks.
Exactly. And several production team members, several creatives came back in to make sure that the show meets the requirements of the original creators. We had not a local director, but we had a director of the tour who was here for several weeks. Curt, is there something else you want to add?
Sure. The show basically loaded in for a week. Usually these shows load in 8 hours or a day and a half. But because it's relaunching the tour, they loaded in for a week, and then the next weekend the rest of the cast and crew and everyone who'd been rehearsing came. And then they spent 2 weeks putting the sound and the lights and costumes and everything together. And then opened a couple of Fridays ago and just had a great run. We were a little concerned when we booked this, started talking about it a couple of years ago because we had just had it. And it's a big show, and we had 2 weeks of it before, but so we knew it would do well, but we were, was it a little bit too soon? And I think our patrons showed us that it was not too soon. That they were happy to have it
Northwest Arkansas
back.
community wanted
exactly.
Hamilton back.
Yes. Yeah. I have a good friend who's a subscriber, and she was just talking to me about that the other day because I was also able to see the show, and so we were just talking about getting to see the show, and she said, I just can't, when I saw that it was announced, I couldn't believe that it was coming back already. Like, how lucky we are to have a venue and an organization that's able to bring things like that. So she said that completely unprompted, organically. We both are big theater fans, so we loved getting that experience of getting to talk about the show afterwards together. But yeah, it's a hugely exciting thing. Because I remember when Hamilton came the first time, it felt so monumental for our area. Like, Walton Arts Center is a pretty small house. When you look at other...
It's the smallest house Hamilton plays.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So, like, there's not a bad seat in the house anyway.
Right.
And then to get to see something that's such a phenomenon, you know, like she said, we're just so lucky that we have the Walton Arts Center, and that you guys bring the things that you do. It's amazing.
Well, we're thrilled to be able to. It's just, for me, to have been at Walton Arts Center for 22 years, to see the growth that we've had, to see the number of shows. When I started, we weren't even doing full weeks at Broadway. And so, you know, it's been amazing for me to see the transformation in this organization that's now, we're in our 33rd season, I think. To see it grow so much and so fast. But Northwest Arkansas has grown so much and so fast in the same period of time that we're just trying to reflect our community.
Absolutely. Well, and, you know, in working with you guys for as long as I have, and being part of the piece of you guys tell us what you're doing, and I try to help share that mission and share that message, I feel like, at least in the role that I've played in that, I can sense how Walton Arts Center reflects not only what the community wants, but is meeting community need, is filling gaps in education or arts programming or like whatever it is, that maybe there might not be other opportunity here for something like that. And so there's just, like I said, we could talk all day about any piece of Walton Arts Center programming because you guys just have so much going on. Yeah. So Hamilton was technically an add-on show.
Yes.
And it has passed. So is it correct to say the official season begins in September?
It does, yes.
Okay. And so there are 6 shows on the Broadway series this year. There are 4 add-ons, including Hamilton, which is already passed.
Correct.
So that's a lot of Broadway.
It's a lot of Broadway. Yeah. When Curt and I started talking to agents about booking this series, things just sort of started falling into place. And when we realized we were going to do the Hamilton Tech in August, and then MJ sort of landed in May. Those were sort of the 2 biggies. And then everything else just started landing. And at some point I turned to Curt and I said, we have a Broadway show every month, starting in October and running until May. Every month.
Yeah.
10 shows in 10 months. That's ridiculous. We've never done that before. And I think for our Broadway lovers, it's huge because we've got so much and it's such a wide variety of Broadway shows that we're bringing this year.
Yes. So let's talk about the series as a whole, because we talked about what a big deal it was for Hamilton to come back on the timeline that it did, what a big deal it was for them to be launching that next tour from Fayetteville. But Hamilton's not the only big deal. And all of the shows that are on the main season this year are all on their first national tour. Is that correct? That seems like pretty significant to me as well.
Yes, it's the first time we've done that too.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we tell our patrons and our donors and our staff regularly is success begets success. So because we went up from 3 shows or 5 shows to 8 shows, and now we've done 16 shows of Hamilton and Moulin Rouge, and the shows just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. and it's because of the patrons. People want to come see the shows. The demand is there. If the demand wasn't there, we wouldn't book the shows. So when we're planning a season, because we plan a season anywhere from a year to 2 or 3 years out, depending on the shows. We sort of look. We like a well-balanced season. We want a revival. We want a comedy. We want something new. We want we want it to be nice and balanced, but also stuff that people want to see. And luckily, there's a lot of good stuff out there. I know the last couple of seasons have been a little lighter on the comedy, have been a little more challenging to our audiences, and I think that's something that
we can say last year was a little angsty.
Yeah, last year was a little angsty.
It's okay to say that.
But this year, pretty much this year is something. Part of that balanced season is, okay, do we have a show that's going to challenge our audience? This show is not necessarily going to sell out the minute it goes on sale. Not everyone is going to particularly like this show, but we think this show is worthy of being on our season. We think this show needs to be seen.
Right.
And there have been a couple of those the last couple of seasons, and there will probably be one in the next couple of seasons as well. This season is all just fun, musical comedy. The last season with Jagged Little Pill and Tina and company, it was kind of a heavy season. And this is the exact opposite. It's super fun. There's lots of laughs.
Absolutely.
You're just going to go have a good time, have a nice night out, and kind of a little break from the angst for a season, and then we'll get back to that next year.
Yeah. Get back to the angst next year. Yeah.
That's something I love about theater, but also just art too, though, especially through an organization like Walton Arts Center, where you have such a history with the community that I think the community really trusts and believes in the organization. And I don't know, I just feel like there's this sense of when there's a known quantity coming, people will be like, I know I'm going to enjoy that. But then if there's something a little unknown or something brand new or something a little more challenging, that maybe because of that established relationship, they're more willing to, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it, but I trust Walton Arts Center, so I'm going to try it out.
Thank you for saying that, because that's something that we've been working on for 33 years.
Yeah.
We bring in shows that we have seen. If we're not able to see a show, then we talk to lots of people before we agree to bring in a show. There are shows that I don't want to bring in and that Curt doesn't want to bring in because we've seen it and we know that the Northwest Arkansas audience is going to see the show and say that wasn't quite up to the standard that we expect. There are shows on the road that are more simply produced, but the caliber of those shows is such that it doesn't matter what the set is, what the props are. It's the caliber of the work itself, the way it's written. And so what we really try to do is make sure that as we're building a season, whether it's the Broadway season or the rest of the season, everything else, is that the work that we bring in is going to meet the high standard that our audience demands and also meet the arts need and the entertainment need. Mm-hmm. It's not just all about art, because art can be entertainment. Yeah. Entertainment can be art. It's, they're sort of both the same thing. But we really want to make sure that the caliber of the work and the production value is there for our audience, because that's what our audience expects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like, our audience, whether they like a show or not, they appreciate us bringing it in. They, it's not us just doing something to do something. There's a why for every show that we bring in, everything that we put on our stage.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We understand not everybody is going to like everything. Not everybody likes Hamilton. But, we sort of see our job as to entertain you, to challenge you, to elevate your experience and, make you work just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Have fun and enjoy the show, but there were a couple of shows last season that some people did not like and some people really did not like. But even some of those people who really did not like certain shows told us, wasn't for me. I get it. It wasn't for me. But I think they appreciate the caliber and the the curation, that the time that we take to put into this, and the thinking that in presenting these shows.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they were telling us that the show wasn't for me. They recognized why we brought it. They recognized the caliber of the work, the why behind why it was on the series. And for me, that's something that's very valuable because, we understand up front that not everybody's going to like every show. But if our subscription audience understands that sometimes we have to bring a show because it's just one of those necessary things, their acknowledgement of that really means a lot to us as programmers. So
Yeah, I love that. I feel like that's been my experience. Generally, I love almost everything that I go to. There's just been a handful that I came away going, that wasn't for me, but I was thankful for the experience. There are shows that maybe I wouldn't have traveled to go see, or if I lived in a different city, that's more like a bigger city that's harder to get to the theater, or more, whatever, for more involved for whatever reason, I may not have gone and seen. And so even though I came away from the evening itself going, well, it wasn't my favorite story or my favorite show, I had a friend one time who used to write reviews for a different publication. He said one time something to the effect of a night at the theater, even if I don't love the show, is almost always going to be better than a night just at home on my couch. And that just always stuck with me because I agree. So that I just always feel that way when I leave going, if I feel like, oh, it wasn't my favorite, I had a different experience, and people around me were enjoying it, and we had that shared collective experience of watching this live thing.
Yes.
And so I can always appreciate that.
right,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Let's talk about the shows themselves.
Sure.
All on their first national tours for our Arkansas premieres.
Yes.
So that in itself is also exciting that Walton Arts Center just continue, and that's not new. You guys are bringing premieres all the time. I feel like that says a lot about, we've talked about the size of the house. It feels intimate. There's not a bad seat in the house. You could go to Little Rock and see some of these shows, but then you have to travel, and it's a bigger house, and it's, like I said, harder to get to the theater, all of the things. And you're getting first experiences in our state here in our corner of the state.
Right.
It's a difference in seeing Hamilton in a 1,200 seat house versus a 2,400 seat house, a house double that size.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting in the back row of our balcony, it's still a great seat.
You're only 90 feet from the front of the stage.
Exactly.
At the back of our
Exactly.
balcony.
Wow.
So that's...
So if you're sitting, and Robinson Center is beautiful, but if you're sitting in the back of the balcony at Robinson Center, it's a completely different experience than coming to see a show at Walton Arts Center.
Yeah. Nothing against going to see
Nothing
a show in
against
Little Rock.
going to see a show in Little Rock at all.
It's just, I'm more just saying that in support of what an incredible resource we have here, and what an incredible community establishment that we have. So let's talk about the season.
Sure.
Okay, so back to the first nationals and the Arkansas premieres.
Yes.
So some people might be confused about that when they see Peter Pan.
Okay.
Because Peter Pan has been on the road for a very long time.
Sure.
So just to make sure that everybody understands, this is a new version of Peter Pan that's based on the book, and it's been rewritten by Larissa Fasthorse. And so some of the things that may have been problematic in the past have been rewritten for a new audience. Curt, you saw the show.
Sorry, she's an Indigenous
Correct.
Yes.
author,
correct.
writer.
Correct.
Yes, all of those things.
Yes.
Correct.
Playwright.
Yes, playwright.
And Curt saw the show in Baltimore.
Sure.
As it opened. So tell us about it.
Yeah, it's for those listeners or viewers who remember the Mary Martin Peter Pan, or Kathy Rigby did it later on, more recently. It's the same show, it's the same music, but parts of it were problematic. Lots of parts of it were problematic. It's why Disney has a warning on, before you watch it on Disney Plus. It just doesn't mesh with today's society. And what was really fascinating to me, in my previous life before I came to Walton Arts Center, I worked for the producing organization who produced the show, and so I worked on the show just a little bit before I left. And they were talking about, revising the book and making it more appropriate for modern times, and which and that was about the time that everything was woke and everything had to DEI was a big thing, and all this was going on. So there was, at least on my part, a little hesitation on understanding the need to rewrite the book, but I was very pleasantly surprised sitting there watching the show that it feels very organic. The changes feel very organic. It could have been written 50 years ago, 75 years ago. It does not feel woke. It does not feel it doesn't feel hackneyed. It doesn't feel, the changes don't feel forced. Mm-hmm. It's natural. If you're seeing Peter Pan for the first time, you're not gonna sit there and say, "Oh, they must have changed that because that doesn't work." It all works. It gives the Lost Boys a reason for being there. They're no longer just a group of boys. They are the last of their tribes or their cultures or their whatever who've come to Neverland because they have no place else to go. So it's super fun. It's very kid friendly. It's one of I think it's probably the first national tour or production of this caliber where Peter is actually played by a teenage boy.
Okay.
And I'm not sure he's still a teenager, but when he started in the show, he was a teenager. But it's just fantastic. The flight to Neverland literally took my breath away.
I can't wait
when
to see
the
that.
when the windows fly open and Peter flies in, there's still that exactly what's going to happen, but you can't help but just go there.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for Northwest Arkansas audiences to see it. And it's selling very well, which we're very excited about. It's great for the whole family. It's a revival, but it's not a revival. It's an old show, but it's a brand new show. So we're really excited. We're looking forward to having all the families and the folks that come see the show.
Yes.
And we do have an age suggestion on here. Granted, I can't read it because I don't have my glasses on. But we don't recommend shows for any children under 5, simply because it's super hard for a child that age to sit for that long in a space where they're supposed to be engaged and quiet.
Broadway shows.
Right, the Broadway shows.
Walton Arts Center has
Absolutely.
So many shows
so
for
many,
families,
yes.
right. But Peter Pan, so what I was leading into is Hook is not scary.
No, Hook is not scary. He's it's just, to me, it's just fun. It's just a celebration. As much sitting here just having this conversation, it's sort of a celebration of what Peter Pan can be, taking off all of the offensive or no longer appropriate material. It's a celebration of what the show can be. You can take that stuff away, and it doesn't diminish the show at all. In fact, it really enhances the show, and it's very kid friendly. It's a little over 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 20 minutes with an intermission. So it's not. It's not as long as the Rodgers and Hammerstein show. So kids will love it. We want them to be age appropriate and able to, sit and let the audience around them enjoy it as well. But I think when even the audiences around them see the joy and the fun that these kids are having, I think it will be worth it.
Yeah. So that's in September. That's the first, like you said, of the official season. That's not an add-on. So like if you're a subscriber, or if you're looking at the main season, that starts with Peter Pan in September. There's a couple of shows on this season that are brand new, that are based on movies, that I've heard a couple of people have an interaction to the effect or a reaction to the effect of, why did they make a musical about that? But I've got to say I'm really excited for the next one, and I can't believe the timing that you guys got Beetlejuice the week before Halloween.
Right?
It's so perfect. So tell me about Beetlejuice.
I was actually having a conversation with a colleague today who essentially said the same thing. And, of course, the first thing out of my mouth is we're just so good at programming. But really, the real story is we got so lucky. Because tours are built based on where they are in the nation at what time.
Yeah.
And so when the agent suggested these dates for us that they would work really well in the tour. We're like, of course we'll take that date.
It was actually
Thank you very much.
It was actually originally scheduled in the spring, and we were just having one of our regular catch-up calls with him, and we're talking about the show, and he's I think there was another show that had come in that needed that week or something, and so we were trying to make it work, and he's like, well, how about October 22nd to 27th? And we looked at each other like, wait, is he really going to get? Is he serious? And luckily it stuck, and we couldn't have asked for it. It was one of those happy accidents that we couldn't have planned better.
Beetlejuice is so much fun. I mean, I love the movie. When I saw the show the first time, I thought it was a lot of fun. And I actually saw it with my colleague Jennifer Wilson the first time I saw it.
Okay.
But I was also slightly taken aback because there's a lot of language.
Okay.
A lot of language. So this is not necessarily the movie for parents who are concerned about F-bombs.
Okay.
This is not the show for your children if you're concerned about that. But if you've had the conversation that there's language that's appropriate in public, and then there's language that's used on TV and in movies and on the stage that's not necessarily appropriate for public, then, make your own decisions. But the second time I saw it, I just let go of all that and just enjoyed it for what it is. Oh my gosh, it is crazy what they've done to make the movie happen on stage. It's so much fun. It really is.
Well, and I think that that's one reason why they've I can't speak for the authors, but that's one reason why this property seemed to be so ripe for a musical is there's so much in the movie that they could take and just explode and explore and do all sorts of crazy things with that they do in the show because it's Beetlejuice. It just opens up the possibilities. And it's just a fun show. The set is incredible. The special effects are amazing. The fact that they fit what they fit on stage is pretty incredible. And it played in New York and then shut down because of COVID and then reopened in the same show in a different theater. And played for another 9 months and then went out on tour, and it did okay in New York but not great. When it went out on tour, everywhere it goes it sells out.
Going crazy.
Everywhere it goes,
wow,
it sells out. Yeah. And it's one of our top selling shows among our whole season right now. So we're excited. We're excited to have it right before Halloween. We're excited to see the get-ups, the outfits that people come because they will come.
The audience. Around the country, audiences do come in costumes. So
amazing.
If you're hearing this before Beetlejuice and you want to come in costume, please feel free.
And the sequel's about to come out. Like, timing couldn't be better.
And we didn't know about the sequel when we booked the show. So it's just great. We're so excited.
I hear a lot often when it's a property that existed in another form before and it is translated to the musical or to the stage. I mean, either people who are big fans of the original property really excited for it because they're excited to see it in a new way or add on to, here's my experience with whatever it is and now I get to add something new. But I also hear a lot of people, but I love the original so much, like I think this is going to take away from it or it's going to be too different, so I always think that's interesting, people having very extreme expectations for something they haven't seen when they're already fans of the original.
Sure.
And so I'm interested to see how that plays out with Northwest Arkansas audiences, specifically with the show and then the other show on the season that we will get to in a minute.
Yes.
Well, I think the interesting thing about Beetlejuice is it doesn't try to put the movie on stage.
Okay.
It's not the movie on stage.
Okay.
It's that universe. It's some of the same storylines. It's some of the same, the characters have the same characteristics and personalities and whatever. But it expands and broadens the Beetlejuice universe, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't try to fit the movie on stage, word for word, moment for moment.
Okay.
It kind of opens it up and lets it breathe and explores the possibilities as opposed to just the movie.
I love that. And it's coming at a time when the movie is about to do the same thing.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's perfect. It's perfect timing. So then in December is a show that I have heard nothing about. I don't know any, like, and my friends who are talking to me about the season are like, what is this show? I have no idea what this is.
my gosh.
So what is Shucked?
Shucked is a show about corn.
Okay.
I wondered.
There you go.
There you go.
And March, next page. When I first started seeing Shucked, and Jocelyn, I think I've told you this before. When I go see a show for the first time, I don't read about it. I don't read the reviews. I don't know what's going on until I walk in and sit down in the show and then watch the show. I don't even look at the program until after the fact. And so I knew nothing about this show going in other than a few of my colleagues said, it's really funny. And so that's all I'd heard was that it's really funny. Oh my goodness, it is so funny. It's been, the idea for Shucked has been out there for a long time. And in one iteration, it was called the Hee Haw Musical.
Okay.
And I don't know that the producers would actually want me to say that, but I just did, so there it is. But it's not really that. It's a show about a young woman whose community happens to be surrounded by cornfields. And so they have this insular community, and then the corn starts dying. And somebody's got to go find an expert to save the corn.
Okay.
So she goes and does that. She goes and finds an expert and brings that person back to her community, and then chaos ensues. But it's so funny. There's one character who just, oh my gosh, it's your craziest uncle who says the wildest things at inappropriate times. It's that person, and he just goes on and on and on all the time. I don't even know how to talk about it.
It's hard to describe. This is one of those shows that we just sometimes tell people you just have to trust us.
Just trust us.
Because we saw it together, and at one point I was bent over laughing, embarrassed because I was sitting next to my boss, like almost peeing my pants. I was laughing so hard. And I turned and looked at her, and she was also bent over laughing. It's a brand new musical. It's got a great new score by country songwriters Brandy Clark and Shane McAnally, who've written for folks like Maren Morris and Casey Musgraves, and a book by Robert Horn, who used to write for a little TV show called Designing Women. The humor is... It's low hanging fruit, but in the most hilarious way. Like it's lots of dad jokes. It's lots of silly, like we sat there thinking, I can't believe I laughed at that. Like
Right.
It's so like I should not be laughing at that, but you can't help it. It's just you go in, you have a good time. The music is fun. The cast is great. It's just a simple go out, have a nice night out, enjoy it.
Right.
Time.
And we were sort of, it's funny because sometimes we get completely holiday appropriate shows in November and December, and sometimes we get shows like Shucked. Well, a show like Shucked in December is a time for you to just forget about all of the holiday stress, come in, laugh your rear end off for 2.5 hours, and then go home and you'll feel so much better.
There you go.
You don't have to worry about that stress for 2.5 hours. And so I'm thrilled that we got Shucked during this time period because it really is a separation from holiday anxiety and stress and all of that
It's
sort
the
of thing.
exact opposite of that.
Exactly. It's really fun.
It's the funniest thing that I've seen since Book of Mormon opened in New York. I don't think I've laughed that hard or that much at a show since Book of Mormon.
Okay, so there you go. That one's going to be laugh out loud and will take you away from your holiday stress. So sounds like a great December option.
Absolutely.
So then the next show is in March. And this is a show that I heard a lot about when it was on Broadway. And so I always think that's fun when there's something that, for whatever reason, has a lot of publicity or a lot of notoriety around it when it's on Broadway. And then we get the show here in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
So Funny Girl is coming in March.
Yes. Funny Girl is just great. If I grew up watching the musical, Barbra Streisand musical, made for movie musical. And the show has never actually toured.
Wow.
So it has been presented in different places, but it's never toured before. And so when they revived this on Broadway, everybody was real curious about what was going to happen. It's the wonderful songs that you remember Barbra Streisand singing. The cast is so much fun. There are some moments of hilarity. I mean, there are a couple of scenes where the character playing Fanny Bryce, just her character being herself is just funny. But it's the same poignant story that we know from Funny Girl. It's just a fantastic musical, and it feels like a revival. It feels like something that we should have seen before.
Okay.
But you haven't, because it actually hasn't toured. But it's a beautiful, beautiful show.
Yeah, we're really excited. It's it was its first Broadway revival, and its first ever tour. And it's just people think they know Funny Girl. It's not. It's the story of Fanny Bryce. It's not the story of Barbra Streisand, which is kind of fascinating. And it's I saw it in New York and had I knew a little bit of the music but had no idea what to expect and was blown away. So we're excited to give Northwest Arkansas audiences that experience as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Another one that people are excited for, but also I've heard people be like, why is there a musical of Back to the Future coming here in April? How did they add music to that? Tell us about that.
You want to start?
Sure, it's a lot of fun. It's got some new music. It's got the Huey Lewis songs that you remember from the movie. It's exactly what you want Back to the Future on stage to be.
Okay. Yeah.
It's nothing more, nothing less. The car is fantastic. The effects are stunning. Sort of the final sequence at the mall that you remember from the mall with the rain, the storm and the rain and the clock and the car, and it's just stunning. And the way they do the car and make the car appear and disappear and fly is just stunning. And that's not even the best effect in the show. So
exactly.
It just opened on Broadway just over a year ago. So the fact that we're getting it this soon is pretty awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, the best part of the show is when Doc comes out, because almost every time he comes out, there's a chorus of strangely dressed people behind him who back him up with whatever song he's singing. And it's just, that part tickles me because you just never know what's going to happen with his songs. And so it's really fun.
Yeah.
And like Curt said, it's what you would want the movie to be on stage.
I love that. And talking about the effects, that's been one of my favorite things of going to... I've been to Broadway shows before 10-ish years ago, but I would say in the last 10 years is when I've been working closely with Walton Arts Center, keeping up with the full seasons. And just in that amount of time, I feel like how I've seen stage production, like the technology of stage productions change and what stages are capable of doing and how it adds to the storytelling has been so fun to watch because you have video projection screens now, which a long time ago didn't used to have, and so if you see like an older show, it might not have that. But then there's moving set pieces and there's like effects, like you said, that completely changes how you're able to experience the show, and that's just been one of my favorite parts of watching Broadway evolve, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then the season ends with MJ.
Yes.
Which is Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson. It's really the story of a short period of time before Michael Jackson's Dangerous World Tour in 1992. The story takes place in this very compressed time period, but during that compressed time period, they go back in time. They talk about lots of things. The best songs are in it. The dancing is phenomenal.
It would have to be.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. And so just knowing that, the story really is about the preparation for that world tour, but it goes back in time and talks about, some of the people that he knew, some of the family. It's a lot of fun. And it's so loud. It was so loud when I saw it in New York. But it's so good because it's that music that, I mean, I grew up with Michael Jackson. I loved his music so much. And so just hearing it on stage and seeing people dancing and you know, just the whole thing.
Yeah,
It's the whole package.
One of the things that compressing the timeline, or not even compressing, but setting the timeline in a very specific amount of time is it shows how he came to be who he came to be. It shows his artistry, it shows his genius, it shows his musicality, and it really does a good job at showing. It shows who, it really just shows who he was as an artist. And I think it's really, you know, as not as an artist, you know, as someone who's not an artist at all, it gave me a greater appreciation for the personality and for the music and for the artistry.
Right.
Yeah. Amazing. And there's going to be super fans of the music. I feel like with shows like this, there's often a lot of singing in the audience.
Yes.
Is that to be expected?
Most likely, although that's not something we encourage. Because, I mean, just when you're in the theater, you might feel like you want to sing aloud, but think about the people beside you.
Yeah.
Because they didn't come to the theater to listen to you. They came to listen to what's on stage. So sing aloud in your head very, very softly. But yes, it's really fantastic. The music is phenomenal. The dancing is great. It's fun.
So that's the main Procter & Gamble Broadway series.
Yes.
We've got 4 add-ons. As we said, Hamilton was the first one. Then there's Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Ain't Too Proud, The Life and Times of the Temptations, and The Book of Mormon is coming back.
Yes, it is.
So can you tell us briefly about why you're excited about some of these add-ons?
Briefly, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I don't think we've had it. We have not had it. We determined this when we booked it. We're doing a full week of shows.
Okay.
And also we are doing sensory-friendly performances.
Wow.
For those families who have anyone in their family who might need a little bit quieter experience, a little less flash, you know, those sorts of things. So we're incorporating those. Most people won't recognize the difference. So if you wind up at a sensory-friendly performance, you may not know that you're at a sensory-friendly performance.
Okay.
But if people want that, they can call the box office and find out which performances are sensory-friendly performances.
Okay.
So.
But the show is exactly what you would expect.
Yes.
The show to be. It's Dr. Seuss on stage, and it's 90 minutes of nonstop fun. The songs that you want from the movie are there. It's just a great holiday pre-Thanksgiving show.
Yeah.
Yes. Ain't Too Proud, The Life and Times of the Temptations is essentially that in about a 2.5-hour show.
Okay.
It's the songs that you want. It's the dancing that the Temptations do and did when they first came out. It's really a strong, strong show. We had it sketched in multiple times over the past few years for reasons that are neither here nor there. We wound up not having it. We're super glad to finally be able to bring it to Northwest Arkansas. We've got a 3-show run. Tickets are getting rather tight, so you know, if you want to see the show for sure, go ahead and purchase those tickets. But it is just a great show. It really is. And Book of Mormon.
And Book of Mormon, I don't know what what else I can say about the Book of Mormon other than it's coming back for 5 shows in February. It was on the schedule for, I believe, the summer of 2020.
June of 2020.
And we all know what happened then. So we're really happy to be able to bring it back. It's back out on the road. It's still selling out.
Yep.
10 plus years later. So we're excited. We know based on patrons' feedback, this is one of the most exciting shows that they're excited about. So we're excited to bring it back.
Yes. So individual tickets, season ticket, like what do people need to know about if they want to see groups of shows or individual shows?
Right now, we still have the full subscription series on sale. We'll stop selling subscriptions spent essentially at the time of Peter Pan, because once Peter Pan is over, there's not a full subscription anymore. We also have a Create Your Own series. which is a minimum of 3 shows, and it can be pretty much anything from our season. That you can pick your 3 shows. And we also have single tickets on sale. So if there's one show that you want to see, it's available for you to purchase.
Is that all of the shows have single tickets on
Everything,
sale now?
well, everything except for Book of Mormon. Book of Mormon will go on sale in November.
Oh, I forgot.
But you can get Book of Mormon tickets now with one of either our subscription package or Create Your Own series.
Yes.
Package. And one of the other things that's not in our Broadway series, but I wanted to quickly mention is we have 8 performances of Cirque du Soleil Song Blazers, which is their journey into country music with Cirque du Soleil. I saw it in Nashville a month or 2 ago, and
you saw its opening in Nashville.
I saw its opening in Nashville. It's a brand new show.
Wow.
It just opened in Nashville last month. It's fantastic. It's so much fun. The music is great. And we have Thanksgiving week. We have one show the day before Thanksgiving, and then we have, I think, 3 shows Friday, 3 shows Saturday, and 2 shows on Sunday after Thanksgiving when people are looking for stuff to do. So it's the first time we've ever had Cirque du Soleil on our stage, so we're excited about that relationship.
Yep.
And it's just another way that we like to bring new entertainment to Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, like I said, we could have an multiple hours long discussion about any individual series that is within the full season, but that it sounds like another great get, which I'm not surprised because that's what Walton Arts Center does. It's amazing. There are a couple of activities around some of the Broadway shows that you can add on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We have cocktail classes that are available during some of the shows. It's a great time to come in pre-show. You learn how to make a couple of specialty cocktails. There's some little noshas to go with it, so you're not just drinking with no food. You've got actual food to go with it. And it's really fun to come in and do those cocktail classes.
And they're kind of themed to the show, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's more about the season.
Okay.
So, I think we've got some, I'm looking now to see what cocktail classes we actually have. The cocktails during the Beetlejuice run will be more Halloween themed.
Okay.
So they're not necessarily themed to the show. But it's more seasonal. We do like to use some seasonal things so that it makes sense during the time. But the cocktail classes, you can actually buy the cocktail class without buying the ticket to the show.
Okay.
But it's more fun because it just
before.
It just makes it a whole evening. So you come to the cocktail class, you go to the show, and then maybe you go home or you go out on Dixon Street. But whatever you want to do.
We've been doing these a year and a half now, and it seems like every class there's more and more people who are not necessarily coming to the show.
Okay.
But they heard how much fun it was, and so they brought their girlfriends out, or they saw the show on Tuesday and found out about the cocktail class so they do the cocktail class on Thursday and either go see the show again or just or not. We're Walton Arts Center, and we're introducing the culinary arts to
Right.
There you go.
And the cocktail classes start about an hour and a half pre-show.
Okay.
So 5:30 or 6:30, depending on what time the show starts.
Okay. I love, what's the word for it? Programming that integrates multiple senses and multiple you're having food or you're having a drink and then you're going to a show or whatever the case is. I love programming like that, so I love that you guys are doing the cocktail classes, and I've seen them for a couple of years, and I assumed that they're very popular because it seems like you're adding more and more each season.
We are.
So can you talk a little bit about how attending a Broadway performance at Walton Arts Center supports Walton Arts Center's mission? Does it add to or support the arts education programming that is at the core of Walton Arts Center's mission?
Absolutely. The way that our Broadway season supports the arts education programming that we do is the Broadway shows usually make us a little bit of money.
Okay.
And so that little bit of money that we make on the Broadway shows, we apply to those things where we don't make money. The 10 by 10 programming that we do, the classroom series that we have, where we bring all this school children into Walton Arts Center to see shows. Those are essentially non-revenue programs. We do not charge the schools for those classroom series shows. The 10 by 10 series is a $10 ticket. Every ticket is $10. Take $10, multiply it by $1,200. You got the math. Most of the artists cost more than that. So these are non-revenue programs that our Broadway programming really helps us support.
Okay.
And so we see the 10 by 10 program as an access program, and many of those programs also have a school show component. And so, we're not just bringing them in to do the 10 by 10, we're also presenting a school show of those.
And this season, the Broadway League, which is sort of like a consortium of Broadway and touring theater owners and producers and presenters, they have a very strong education program, and one of the new things they're doing this year is called Broadway Bridges, where it started in New York, where they try to bring they give every 10th grader in New York City the opportunity to see a Broadway show.
Wow.
And so we're able to, they're starting that on the road this year, and so we're participating in the first year of that with Funny Girl and Back to the Future. We have a certain number of tickets that are very reduced in cost in order to bring in these students who may or may not have the opportunity.
Exactly.
And it's just another way to further our mission in bringing the arts and exposing the arts to everyone in Northwest Arkansas.
And Broadway Bridges on the Road is for high school students only. So, however, it's defined in the certain district. And so at Fayetteville, I know the high school is defined as 9 to 12. So if another high school defines, or another district defines high school as 10 to 12, those are the students who would be eligible to come. We are reaching out to our partner schools to see who might be interested in those highly subsidized tickets first, and then we'll sort of go from there. But as Curt said, we have a very limited number of tickets. We have agreements with the producers of the tours for those tickets. And so it's a pilot program for us this year. We're one of 18 venues across the nation who are offering Broadway Bridges on the Road shows. And we're really happy that we're able to do that. So
yeah, that's
more
amazing.
on that later.
Yes, I hope so. And again, another thing that we could talk all day about is the community work and the school programming, the arts education programming that, like I said, is at the center of Walton Arts Center's mission. I'm hoping we have an opportunity in the future to have a more in-depth conversation about that, but if that's something that any listeners are interested in learning more about, you can find a little more in-depth information about that in our August issue, which is on our website, because we focus on programming coming to the Walmart Arkansas Music Pavilion, which is, what's the right way to say that? It's not a sister organization. What is the relationship between Walton Arts Center and? Okay.
Yeah. Both organizations, Walton Arts Center and the Walmart AMP, are under the umbrella of Walton Arts Center.
Okay.
So we're sister organizations.
Okay. So we dig into that a little bit in our August issue, how a new program coming to Walmart AMP supports that arts education programming that we're talking about. So you can find a little more on that story there, but like I said, hopefully there'll be an opportunity in the future for us to have a little more in-depth conversation about it. I think maybe to end, if you are allowed to say, which show are you personally looking most forward to? Or if you can't say, because you can't pick a favorite, is there a show that you're especially looking forward to seeing how the Northwest Arkansas community responds to it?
Ooh, you go first.
I'm super excited about Shucked. From literally at intermission, we looked at each other and said, we have to have this show. It's just such a fun show. Like I said, my in-laws are coming, my parents are coming, and really looking, and they called us and said, hey, what's this show Shucked about? So I'm really excited to see. I think it's going to be one of those sleepers where people don't know and are very pleasantly surprised when they get there.
Yeah. I don't have a favorite because we love all of our children equally.
Yes.
But I'm looking forward to Funny Girl on our stage. My sister and I used to watch Funny Girl all the time, and we had the VHS. And so we would watch Funny Girl and Funny Lady over and over and over. And I just think the show is just so great. And it really does that. It does the nostalgia thing really well. It brings back a period of time that we don't really think about a lot. It brings to the forefront this woman, Fanny Brice, who is so important in our theater lore, but nobody really talks about her anymore.
Okay.
But she's super important, and so it's just, it's really great. And those songs will stick in your head for weeks. So don't rain on my parade.
Don't rain on my parade.
Well, Jennifer and Curt, thank you so much for being here and for going through the 2024-25 Procter & Gamble Broadway series with us. You can find all of that ticket information and see which shows have very limited tickets left, which is several of them, at waltonartscenter.org, or you can call the box office at 443-5600.
Very good.
So thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks
for having us.
Jocelyn. Happy to be here.